since we've interviewed Boris Johnson on this programme.
But if he came on, we would ask him all the questions in a fair way. Yes,
absolutely right. And we're going to ask the Labour leader all those questions now, after so long waiting for what ended up being quite a brief update from Sue Gray, but a damning one into number 10 parties. Parliament is now being told, wait for the Met to report.
And Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer said there was no doubt that the Prime Minister is under criminal investigation and once again took the opportunity to call for the Prime Minister to step down.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer joins us now. Very good morning to you. I found it quite grim yesterday watching what was going on in the House of Commons. You obviously asking some really important questions of the Prime Minister, and he's saying wait for the Metropolitan Police. Do you have faith in the Metropolitan Police and Cressida Dick, considering initially they said they wouldn't investigate, that they needed to see material to investigate, and that they didn't retrospectively investigate? Do you have faith in their inquiry?
I do have faith in the Metropolitan Police and their investigation. Obviously, it's frustrating that we'll have to wait a little longer. But as you say, it was an extraordinary day in Parliament yesterday. There were lots of emotions because one of the things that all of the allegations in the last however many weeks, 6-7 weeks, have done for the public is force them to think back and relive those moments, those sort of many dark moments that we all went through. Because I think every single family has been marked by the pandemic, and there's been sort of an outpouring of anger at what the Prime Minister did, grief, and guilt. Guilt. I've had so many people have said to me, Keir, I feel guilty. I followed the rules. I didn't do what I probably should have done for my dad or one of my elderly relatives. People feel that they've been treated as mugs, and that inner guilt they had at the time that, you know, because of the rules, I won't do what I think is right for my family. And that has now been sort of pushed back on them by the Prime Minister's behaviour. And so there was a lot of emotion yesterday. I think there's a further emotion there, which is frustration that to save his own skin, the Prime Minister is distracted from all of the other things that matter to so many people. Energy bills, for example, are going through the roof. We, the Labour Party, have said do something about it. We've said have a windfall tax which will cut hundreds of pounds off the energy bills for every family.
Yeah. Well,
and the government won't pick that up and run with it. And there's a frustration there that whilst they're saving his skin, we're putting this alternative proposal there. We just want to move this forward.
There was that weird moment yesterday when we found out he was supposed to be having a phone call with President Putin, but he couldn't because he's addressing potential rule breaking in front of MPs. But a number of them yesterday said, you guys over on the opposition benches need to let him get on with that business. That while many people will feel, as you describe, and as Aaron Bell, the Conservative backbench MP, yesterday described that kind of pain that other people were sticking to the rules and they weren't. But that's behind us now. Leave it to the Met. Let him, he's the leader of the UK. Let him get on with leading.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just, let's put it in blunt terms, shall we? The Prime Minister broke the rules. The Prime Minister lied about having broken the rules. The Prime Minister started the Sue Gray inquiry because he'd lied. And now the Prime Minister has brought a criminal investigation upon himself. So I'm sorry, but the attempts by the Prime Minister and others to say that it's somehow somebody else's fault are just not going to wash. I do share the concern that we've got to address all the other issues that concern people. That's why this afternoon the Labour Party have put down a motion that we can vote on to cut our energy bills. So whilst the Prime Minister is busy trying to save his own skin, we are trying to put forward the case for a new Britain coming out of the pandemic based on security, on prosperity and respect. We're doing the job the Prime Minister ought to be doing. And let's also face facts. Last week, there was a meeting scheduled between the Chancellor and the Prime Minister to deal with the energy bills. It didn't take place because the Prime Minister was spending all his time with his own backbenchers trying to save his job. Yesterday, as you rightly say, there was supposed to be a call with President Putin, which didn't take place. because of the goings-on in Parliament. And that's the price we're all paying for the misbehaviour of this Prime Minister.
Sir Keir, can I ask you about the how things develop now? Well, you've been very clear. You believe the Prime Minister broke the law. You called for the Metropolitan Police to do this investigation. You said yesterday the Prime Minister was hiding behind the investigation. But if it turns out now, when the police do their investigation, that the Prime Minister himself is not charged with any offences, at that point, isn't the logic of your position that you have to withdraw your call for the Prime Minister to resign?
Well, let's let the police do their job, but bear in mind that what we know from yesterday is pretty damning. Of the 16 parties or gatherings that Sue Gray was looking at, 12 of them are going to be investigated by the police. And the police themselves have said, well, normally we wouldn't look at cases that are more than 12 months old unless, on the material we've already got, we think the allegations are both serious and flagrant. And what they mean by that is those involved with them knew they were breaking the rules and they haven't got a defence. We know they've got, I think, 500 pages of statements,
but
300 photographs.
Charged,
so we'll have to see.
But if he was not charged, would you then withdraw your request for him to resign?
No, because he heads the government, he sets the culture. And the question I've asked myself, ever since those allegations came about of suitcases being wheeled into Downing Street on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral, I've asked myself, would those individuals have done that if they thought their boss, Boris Johnson, would tolerate it? And if they thought they were going to get the sack from their boss, Boris Johnson, they would never have done it. The culture of all organisations is set from the top, and he sets the culture, and it's a rotten culture.
I wonder, though, Keir, if this is not sort of slightly dangerous, and you, as a former DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions, will understand this very well. You said yesterday Conservative backbenchers must decide the Prime Minister's future. You said these issues are about culture and leadership and trust, but at the same time, we now end up with the Metropolitan Police stuck between the word of the Prime Minister and the word of the Leader of the Opposition. Aren't we in danger of getting the police into a role in politics and Parliament, which is quite dangerous? And back in your time as DPP, you would not have thought advisable at all.
Well, I had a number of cases when I was Director of Public Prosecutions where there were investigations into what happened in Parliament, not least MPs' expenses, where under my watch we took the decision to prosecute MPs for breaking the law. These are never easy decisions, but we took those decisions because it was the right thing to do. Here, the police are involved because Sue Gray has passed them the material and they've assessed that it's serious and it's flagrant and that they need to investigate. That has been brought about by the Prime Minister, and we are all paying the price of this distraction, of his misbehaviour, because on the questions of energy bills, on the question of Ukraine, the Prime Minister is too busy talking to his own backbenchers to save his skin than getting on with the job.
I just wonder what you made. This is the Prime Minister in the House of Commons, and he says to you that when you were Director of Public Prosecutions, you failed to prosecute Jimmy Savile. What would you like to say publicly about that?
It's a slur. It's untrue. It's desperate from the Prime Minister. And I was really struck yesterday in the House at how many Conservative MPs were disgusted at him for that untruth upon untruth from the dispatch box. Of course, you know, on our side, people were disgusted, but his own MPs couldn't believe that their Prime Minister had stooped that low, and he's degraded the whole office. And this is how he operates. He drags everybody into the gutter with him. Everybody he touches, everybody that comes into contact with him is contaminated and brought down by this Prime Minister.
One tiny thing, Sir Keir, just to end. Before the statement yesterday, you were in St Margaret's Church with Labour and Conservative MPs, former Prime Ministers, to mark the passing of Jack Dromey, the former Labour MP, the husband of Harriet Harman, and there were tributes to him from Labour and Conservative sides of the House of Commons. He was a good man taken in an untimely way.
He was an incredible man, and the funeral service yesterday was very, very moving. A combination, a brilliant eulogy from Gordon Brown and his family members describing their pride and their love for Jack. We know he was a great trade unionist, a great member of Parliament, but that combination of pride and love and so much of his record that all of us feel so proud to have known him as a parliamentarian, as a trade unionist and as a friend.
He referred to himself as Mr. Harmy Nee Dromey. He was an early feminist in the House of Commons. Thank you very much indeed, Sir Keir Starmer, for joining us this morning.